Well, another big development in the fight against COVID-19, Moderna announcing it is requesting emergency FDA approval of its vaccine candidate today. And once it's approved, could be shipped out within 24 to 48 hours. Let's bring in Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar. Mr. Secretary, it's always good to see you, sir. Thank you for coming on this morning. I was interested. I was kind of looking at a soundbite, a quote that your assistant Human Health and Services Secretary Brett Giroir, the Admiral, said yesterday. I want to play this and get your response on the other side. Watch.
If we can immunize for impact, that is, immunize those groups that are at the highest risk, like long-term care facilities, the elderly, minorities, we can absolutely get 80% of the benefit of the vaccine by only immunizing a few percent of the population.
Immunize for impact, Mr. Secretary. Is he saying that we don't all need this vaccine?
What he's talking about is prioritizing, because I wish we have, 330 million doses on day one upon approval. But even with the incredible work of President Trump and Operation Warp Speed and starting manufacturing in the early days of these programs, we're going to have maybe 40 million doses of vaccine by the end of this year, and then keep producing of these different vaccines and keep producing over the course of months. So we want to make sure those first vaccines, the first weeks, go to those most vulnerable, those where you have the biggest impact on saving lives, and also protecting those who are most at risk, like our frontline healthcare workers taking care of COVID patients.
Yeah, let's put these on the screen because you talk about the priority list, and I want to kind of run these down just so our audience is clear. Healthcare personnel, workers in essential and critical industries, people at high risk for severe COVID-19 illness due to underlying medical conditions, people 65 years and older. So the question is, Moderna saying, look, once they give approval, we got 24, 48 hours, we'll get this stuff distributed. How long before the first injections happen, sir?
Well, as you said, it'll ship within 24 hours after FDA approval, and then really it's going to be up to our nursing homes, our hospitals, our pharmacies to get that dispensed. So it really could be within days of FDA approval, we'll start seeing vaccines in people's arms, which is frankly incredible. Think about this, 10 months into this pandemic hitting our shores, thanks to what President Trump has done here. We believe we're going to have people getting vaccinated, millions of people, before Christmas this year. It's just unheard of in the history of public health, this accomplishment.
24 to 48 hours after FDA approval, when is the FDA going to approve this? How long will this process take? Could it take a day, 2 days? How long?
So Pfizer submitted their application a week ago, and the FDA said they'll hold a public advisory committee hearing on December 10th. And if everything is on track, FDA could approve within days of that hearing. And then Moderna, they filed today, and there'll be an advisory committee for them, likely December 17th is what the company has announced. And again, it could be within days of that public advisory committee that FDA grants approval if the data all confirms the way it's looking. And the Moderna data today, incredible. 30,000 people in that clinical trial, and they just released their full results, 94% effective. It's unbelievable.
Well, the numbers are astonishing. The question is, how do you get people to take it? This Gallup poll saying that 4 in 10 Americans don't want it. How do you convince people, Mr. Secretary, that this is the way to go?
Well, I think some of those surveys were conducted earlier when there was a political campaign going on, and frankly, a lot of people were jumping in bed with the anti-vax crowd and denigrating the vaccine work for other purposes. Now I think we are all coming together and saying 94, 95% effective vaccines. We need to rally around this and convince people that these vaccines are going to really can protect you and can protect our country and get us back to normal.
And how many people do you have to convince? Lastly, sir, I've got very little time, but listen, to 4 out of 10, let's say it's 3 out of 10 now. How do you convince them?
Well, the process is what's going to convince them, I believe. It's going to show that it was independent, the data is incredibly strong, and then they're going to get experience as we protect our most vulnerable, protect our healthcare workers. People are going to see this, they're going to see the effect, and they're going to want it themselves, and we're going to work to convince them of that.
It's moving very rapidly. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Trace.